What's good, y'all? It's Drew here, back with another video. Alright, so I got a quick question for y'all. What is Luffy's dream? Like, simple question. Like, what does Luffy want to do? What is his goal as a pirate or whatever? I feel like we always assume that this was like a simple thing, he's a shonen protagonist at that. He's not gonna, like, make too many mistakes on that. Like, you're gonna know what his goal is as soon as he says it. Which is obviously to be the Pirate King. I was and Ace like, how you really believe that? And Luffy, Luffy's just gonna laugh it off, so that's what he does. And I feel like, I'm not gonna speak for all fans, but I feel like every time I've seen it, I just assumed, oh, he said, I wanna be the Pirate King. And because, we know his catchphrase at this point. Like, we know what he stands for. So we just like almost like subconsciously put that in our minds. That's what he wants to be. And then another, like, this is like obviously hundreds of chapters later with the Roger flashback, and we see that he says, I wanna, like, and he says, I'll be, and then obviously it just cuts to with Roger and Odin's like reaction, and they're like, how you do that. Odin, we see that Odin's shocked by that, and Whitebeard is saying that that's like a kid's dream, or, oh, you were a little kid. And even then I was like, okay, that's cool. There's a little parallel there, what Luffy said, I want to be the Pirate King, and then Roger said, I want to be the Pirate King. But then someone compiled the clips, so the Roger flashback was a really great thing to me. But I guess I should have been, I personally should have been looking at it a lot more attentively, because in one of the panels we see that Roger, he gets the One Piece, he's the Pirate King, and in the paper they say what he achieved, and they call him the King of the Pirates. And what's surprising about that to me is not that the King of the Pirates is not a new phrase. It's the fact that, one, Gold Roger, that was not a phrase that was used before, because he says, oh, that has a nice ring to it. Like, that's something they called him, and he just went with. And two, later on we see with the Zebek stuff, he doesn't want to be the King of the Pirates. He never said he wants to be the King of the world. There was no such thing as like the King of the Pirates. So what he said most likely wasn't that. So, like, obviously shout out Oda, because the foreshadowing on this is like 500 chapters, like, difference. Like even with all the knowledge I still didn't really put together, I need the compilation of things. We have another scene, when Luffy meets Rayleigh, he talks to him, and Rayleigh's like, I wanted to meet you ever since Shanks came up to me. And basically what Shanks tells Rayleigh that we actually get to see is that Shanks says, oh, he said the same things that Captain Roger did. And what I thought it was, I thought, oh, we know that Roger never ran from a fight. So what I thought he said was, when Luffy was in the bar and all that stuff happened, Luffy was like, if you run from a fight, you're not a man. So I was like, okay, maybe Roger said that. But, like, looking at all three, I don't think it's a coincidence. So looking at that, looking at what Luffy said, I don't think is the Pirate King, because why hide that? You know what I mean? Like, I thought, like, it's clearly more to that. Like, there's no reason to hide that. We've heard Luffy say, I want to be the Pirate King 1,000,001 times by now. And with Roger, I feel like it's clear that he didn't say I want to be the Pirate King, because that's not a term that he ever used. He didn't even know about it until after we found the One Piece. Since we know it's not about being the Pirate King, just looking at what Luffy's all about, I feel like we can kind of get a like, not a scheme, but we can kind of conceptualize what we think it might be. So the two things I've been thinking about that it could be are, wanting to be super free, and then having something to do with joy. So wanting to be free. We've heard Luffy say that a couple of times. We obviously know that Luffy wants it. That's his reason for being the Pirate King. So that would make a lot of sense as to why he said that. Because even with Rayleigh, he says, do you have the power to conquer the seas? And Luffy's like, nah, but, like, that's not really what I'm trying to do. And that's a pretty cool theory. But, like, my main gripe with that is I feel like I don't think we've heard it since Luffy told Ace and Sabo what he meant. Because, Luffy was like a little kid. So, him just getting two older brothers, he obviously wants to share what his goal is. So I'm not entirely sure that the Straw Hat Pirates know. Like, they might know, but it's probably been off screen. So I feel like if Oda was gonna just tell us what, like, this goal was, he wouldn't have showed it in, like, Shaki's bar to Rayleigh. But that's just, like, what I think on that one. Obviously my second theory that I thought it could be was Luffy talking about Joy. Because we don't know anything about Joy. Well, we know some things, but we don't know most things about Joy Boy right now. But what we do know is that Joy Boy has something to do with the Straw Hat, most likely, right? Like, almost everything we're gonna say is like hypotheticals, or it's like, just almost grasping at straws at this point. But we know Luffy And we know Joy Boy has to do with like reincarnation in some way, right? Or not reincarnation, but more passing down of wills. We see that One Piece has that theme. We see that Joy Boy probably has a lot to do with the Straw Hat. And it seems like Joy Boy has obviously a lot to do with the Will of D. So those are like three things that fit Luffy and Roger pretty good. Like those are, if you're gonna compare Luffy and Roger, those will probably come up. You know, we both seen that. We know that they both have the Straw Hat. They both worn the same Straw Hat. They're both obviously, you know, Will of D members, and they're always talking about freedom. We know that the whatever Roger wants or whatever Roger stated, it has to be, you know, something a kid would think of, because Whitebeard's like, oh, are you a kid? Like that's something very childlike. And Odin obviously says that Odin was shook, and he said like that was the second time that happened. But like if Roger was like, oh, I want to have the most joy in the world or something, like I feel like that could be like, I think that could be goofy enough for it to work, right? Something seemingly unattainable. Like that's why I was saying like the freedom thing, because being the freest person in the world or having absolute freedom, like he could say something like that. Like how do you attain that? Like as long as you have like the government and other Yonko level people, can you have true absolute freedom? Which is why, like, you know, we see Luffy's path. He wants to take down every single Yonko because he feels like he can't be absolutely free unless they're taken down, whether you believe he will or not. So those are the two main ones that I think, like, I'm not gonna say they're correct, but I feel like it's something along the lines of that, like something that's vague enough, but I think it'll have to do like strongly with Joy Boy, which is why obviously I said the joy and freedom. There's another panel with Ace talking to Yamato. I think Ace tells Yamato like the dream, because we see in the chapter that Ace is talking to Yamato and then he says he gets carried away and he didn't mean to say that. And Yamato's like, oh, it's okay, you know, you're fine. And then Ace says, you know, never laugh at that dream. I don't want anyone to laugh at it. That's why the way he made it seem as if he didn't tell it to everyone. But he says, do not laugh at that dream. And Yamato, in like a tearful scene, says like she won't. Obviously, we know Yamato is a lot more knowledgeable than your average One Piece character because of Odin's journal that she currently owns. I don't know if she gave it to Momo, but at the time she had the journal, and it's clear that she probably read it from beginning to end multiple times. So that journal, this is where the connection to me like was started. In chapter 1000, when she's talking to Ace, Yamato in her mind thinks, oh, those are the words of the Pirate King. That's why she's kind of tearing up. And then she tells Ace, you know, there was a great man who said the same thing. Now, when I first read that, I assumed that meant, you know, he was talking about Roger, and, you know, it's just, it's kind of a coincidence that, because if Yamato had told Ace that was Goldie Roger, then Ace would feel a certain type of way because that's how Ace is. But a lot of people came to a different conclusion, and I kind of saw why they did that, and that was that the person they were talking about was Joy Boy with Yamato and Ace. Yamato was talking about, she mentioned Goldie Roger already, so there was no need to say a great man. Like why allude to it? Why not just say his name? You already said Goldie Roger, so I felt like it wasn't him. It had to be another person, and there's a pretty big chance that that's gonna be Joy Boy, just because of how much we know Odin, how much his journal he probably wrote in it. We know that Odin got all the way to the One Piece, like, so it makes me think that Joy Boy, Roger, and Luffy said the same thing. If I had to bet my money on it, it has something to do with like joy or absolute freedom. Like I feel like it's something. I feel like it's definitely something we've never heard Luffy say in the series. Because I don't think there's a reason for them to hide it like they have been. So that's why I kind of like look away from from it being like something about absolute freedom, because we've heard Luffy and Roger say this. I think Roger said it in the Uncanon movie. I think it was the Shiki movie. The Shiki movie is weird because some of it's canon and then some of it's not. Like I feel like when Luffy's teeing up Shiki, that's definitely not canon. But some of the stuff before that and after that is canon, so it's weird. Luffy and Roger both said, you know, they want freedom, which, you know, obviously that's another connection you can lay to the two. But if it was that simple, why hide it this way? Like why allude to it in both manners? Like both times with Luffy and Roger talking, we only got the all be, and we just were forced to like fill out the rest. This makes me think that whatever it is, it's definitely going to be something like, this is some end game stuff right here. Because Oda doesn't just leave plot points like this unresolved. Like the only thing is that like this is one of the things that we have gotten, like, you know, 3.3 to maybe 4 points of evidence over like the last decade, like 11, 12 years. Let me know what y'all think. uh what their goal is, their dream, because Luffy's dream might not just be to be the king of the pirates or the pirate king like we always assumed. It would seem like that was the one thing people could say about Luffy. But if Luffy has this other dream that he's only told like maybe like 10 people, that's if I'm talking about his brothers and his crew, assuming his crew even know. Otherwise, like 2 people, we could be in for a surprise. But I mean, that's all I got. But I'm out. Peace.